that bullshit and really get down to what matters. And I've always been a party person, and I think it really breaks.
Are you talking about the white nationalists still? Because that's where I was trying to.
No, I'm talking about in general.
Steer us back.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Where do you want us?
Well,
what's our next?
Well, I was curious actually about the white nationalist conversation because I don't feel like you ever really.
What do you want me to say?
With that.
There's white nationalists in this country, and I think they're in our government.
Yeah, we agree. Well, but we agreed to that. That's what I'm saying. Your initial claim. I'm kind of curious about your claims. I feel like you're making a very strong claim.
Oh, because you
were saying initially. I don't know if we've regressed to there's people in the administration, but you said the administration was white nationalist. I think that's like quite a claim.
There was a reason why we had like a lull, so I was trying to fill, and it was a conversation we had previously where I didn't want to break it down on Facebook. Like, do you believe in this?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, do you believe it? So I wanted just to like, hey, like, I just want to see if you are open to thinking that there are white nationalists in this administration, and that there is an active movement to make this country a religious, not only like a more of a religious country, which is unconstitutional, and then a more white country.
Well,
which I know is a hard claim. Like that's
and there's kind of like something interesting if we want to take it specifically off of the Trump white nationalist thing, because I'm not sure if you're all the way there with your claim. I don't know.
He's white nationalist. His father's claim. I mean, you can look at his history of being sued by minority people. Yeah. That hey, this man has something. But
okay, well, I mean, you can be prejudiced without being a white nationalist.
I think he's also won civil rights awards as well. So I guess it depends on which.
Well, I mean, you could be.
Someone on the other side would argue you're. I don't know.
That's why. That's kind of where I'm at.
But I like that more than the no.
Yeah,
because that's what I've been getting is no.
But yours is they are, and that's why I'm taking.
That is my opinion. I'm sorry,
but you need to provide a little bit more than just like, oh well, his dad was this and like. He said this 10 years ago.
The tattoo on the one guy's chest. I mean, it could be tied to that, but it could also just be religious, and that could be some shit you think is cool.
Donald Trump he wouldn't even put his hand on the Bible.
It's probably also not religious. Who the fuck knows? But
it's just the fact that you put these people in positions that you know have a history of racism within all their lawsuits and shit that aren't qualified for their positions. You listen to the rhetoric by Stephen Miller, by the guy, I forget his name, the new border czar or whatever.
Tom Homan.
That rhetoric is pretty.
What rhetoric? The immigration rhetoric?
By Tom Herman. He's very edgy with the racist, like pushing the line of racism without being just blatantly racist.
I think we like to use labels like racist and sexist and bigot and whatever to make it easy to just not have to contend with anyone saying something we don't like. Let's contend with what he's saying. What are his claims? His claims are that we've had record illegal immigration. What? Okay. I heard numbers. I don't know if these are true. Between 20 and 30 million.
Yeah.
Which is just egregious. And it's unacceptable, regardless of how you feel about immigration in general. That should be a point that we can all agree on that isn't acceptable. To incentivize and allow 20 million people to come in here illegally.
So okay, all right. So let's break down the nuance of this illegally. What are they doing to enter here illegally? What is the 21 million people doing?
Crossing our border is illegal.
Yeah. No, okay, but that is the process of seeking asylum, you know?
Okay, but 21 million people.
I'm not saying all 21 million are.
Okay.
But we have to look at percentages here. Okay. I don't know the percentages, but let's just break down in just our heads that a decent portion are coming across illegally, getting detained, seeking asylum because that was the legal process allowed to them.
What does it take to seek asylum?
I've never sought asylum, but
you could be an economic refugee.
Economic.
What do you have to do or say?
You come
I'm in danger.
Border,
I'm not. I've never been there.
Okay, so if it's that easy, do you not think those numbers might be highly inflated with
people who aren't seeking
unjustifiable?
Hey, listen, that I'll agree with, but hold on, but let me.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so that I can agree with, but we're calling those people who are seeking the legal process illegal. Okay, which that's one of my issues, is that they're not illegal.
What about now that it's not the process?
So
would you still agree with it?
What if they sought asylum but then didn't appear for their court date?
Okay, so that again is an issue. So let me go further. You got people who come in and they get a work visa.
Okay.
Okay, they apply for an extension that gets denied. They never leave. They are now an illegal immigrant. Okay, understand. Okay,
Correct.
So you then have your people who they came here on a student visa. And this goes far beyond Hispanic people. This is of all.
I agree.
Okay, but we're only seeing Hispanics on the news, on
but
any
let's
video.
be honest about the density of the issue.
And I looked up that after we had a conversation.
Right.
I said that there's far more Hispanics than I assumed.
Right, but it gets implied that it's racist to focus
Because
on
we're not
Hispanic.
seeing again,
Because
bro.
that
You can't
is the-
tell me. You can't tell me that. Well, while there's a war going on in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine, that there are not people here illegally from that continent.
I'm sure there are.
It's impossible. So we're not seeing anything with them. We're only focused on the people that are brown. So that's why, yes, I'm going to say, hey, listen, I'm not saying that's the definite reason, but I'm not blocking it out because of all the other context of the people who are making the decisions.
European countries also have a much harder time immigrating here illegally than
fair. Yeah,
Hispanic
that's because they go right across. I got it.
Yes.
Right.
So the numbers are significantly lower.
Why? So how passionate were you?
When you have a problem that's a 90-10 problem, which problem do you solve first?
Me personally, I'll look at all of it so I can be fair, but I get what you're saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not. Again, I'm just saying perspective is perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but now let me ask you this: you're so passionate about the 21 million, and I appreciate it, and I have a different view on what I think we should have a process be. However, there was a bipartisan bill that got worked on for over a year and a half that was unheardedly agreed on by almost every congressman and senator within our government.
Normally when they all agree, it's pretty bad.
But the whole bill was to go ahead and change the process of how asylum seeking is done.
Okay.
It was to give Border Patrol more enforcement. Okay. There was a lot that they were doing to help with the process.
Why was that necessary?
Because the process was broken. It was originally
Why?
I don't know what you
to
look
fix the process that they had in place that obviously wasn't working.
They cut their legs out from under them.
They were trying.
Laws don't matter if they're not enforced.
They were trying to.
Okay,
they were trying to solve.
but
Like what we
trying
talked about before this thing, where it's like there's different issues. There's different ways to solve a problem. So it's like the Democrats wanted to keep the asylum seekers and then also still solve the issue.
Yeah, but it became overwhelming.
Flowing. Yeah, which I mean, I think so. For me, just put my cards on the table. I'm much stronger on immigration than Paul is.
But, yes.
I think that it's actually a regression of the Liberal Party because they're actually the party to be anti-illegal immigration because it has an adverse effect on workers in America.
Correct.
And I think that should be our number one priority personally. So it's like, especially when we're going into an age of artificial intelligence, it's going to take a shit ton of jobs. So it's like, no, I think we do need to make sure people are coming across here. But I think that's what it was. I don't want to interrupt your guys' conversation.
Yeah, I think so. I forgot exactly what I was going to say. Let me get my train of thought back. You go ahead. It'll come back to me.
So to me, I just feel like there's this bipartisan bill. It was getting passed. Then you have on Fox News, the host of Fox News, the female, forget her name at the time, and Mike Johnson were going back and they were having the conversation, and she said, "I just got off the phone with the president. I know you just did. What did he tell you about this bill?" Now, obviously, they're not talking about Biden. They're talking about Trump, who was not president at the time. But even though we won't talk about that disrespect, no. But it's what Mike Johnson said is that Trump, that the president said he doesn't want this bill to be passed, and they said on television because it would be bad for the election. So we're killing it.
Yeah, that's the political game, and I don't like it.
But we rewarded it. So my whole thing is, that there's an issue. And Trump cares so fucking much.
Well, how did he fix it within the first month?
What do you mean fix? So
we had record low illegal immigration within the first month of him coming.
You have to trust every number reported, and two. But I'm not going to go there. That's cheap. That's a cheap cop out. I'll admit. So two.
I could say that about any argument.
So exactly.
That's the information.
Numbers. But two. Who the fuck is trying to get here now?
Exactly. The messaging matters.
But see, and
when they know the door's open,
that's where. But see, that's
20 million people walk through.
But see, that's where
when they know it's closed, you can look it up.
But that's
100 people walk through it.
But that's where it gets skewed, because to me, I don't think that's what America is supposed to represent. Fuck you, you're not allowed
enforcing
here.
Our borders,
shutting your door to immigration, unless you're a South African white refugee, then you can come in.
No, dude.
But that's what happened. So no, I'm sorry for raising my voice. Go ahead.
This is an important distinction to make. Okay. There's a difference between illegal immigration and immigration. As far as I know, Trump has not closed the door. The door is open. There's a process in place so you can go through the door.
But
the door gets opened for you. If you open my door, that's when it's a problem.
Okay, so
you're not allowed to open my door.
So can we talk about a different form of fixing that isn't just enforcement and we're going to deport you to El Salvador and send you to prison?
Are they El Salvadorian?
No, the people going there are not just El Salvadorian. Those aren't. It wasn't 150,000 just.
Yeah, they're not all actually Salvadorian.
Okay,
but how about
they are supposedly connected to the El Salvadorian gang. So
which then you have a lot of discrepancies on that too. But again,
but that's illegal.
Yeah. I mean, if you're dealing with 20 million people and you don't have any discrepancies, then you just deserve to run the government forever.
Due process really helps with that. I understand where due process you have to have them and then keep them in jail here and let them go through the process. But my issue is
I don't want to pay for that.
Oh, see, and that's
they came here legally. Why do I have to fund their legal defense?
You don't think that they're owed that though in this country? The Constitution says that.
It does.
Yeah, it doesn't.
The problem I have
it doesn't specify U.S. citizens either.
Okay. So I might say something controversial here. I guess.
Please.
So I think we have principles.
Yeah.
When we're fortunate enough to be able to have principles, right? So let's say like
you're utilitarian, basically.
You're against stealing, right?
Yeah.
But if your children are starving, you would steal to get food to feed them. But you wouldn't rest on your principles in a case where you had something that was in contradiction.
Okay.
So how are you supposed to solve the problem?